80% failure rate after a founder passes away.
Wow.
Just to show you what we're up against.
The only ones that made their lives scratching the land with their hands are the armadillos.
Ask yourself if what you're doing is right and do it better and faster than anyone else.
What I'm always interested in with businesses and what I love about Alvarez is the verticals that y'all have been able to create.
He always said to have a successful construction company, you really had to do only 3 things.
Okay. Hey, we're back. Welcome, Sebastian Alvarez.
Thank you for having me.
With Flora Landscape, Alvarez Construction, and a plethora of other things.
Yep, that's right. Getting into a few things.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming today. We appreciate the time.
Love being here.
All right. Well, Sebastian's a really good friend of mine. We have gotten to know each other with our families, taken a couple of trips together, which is crazy. But wanted to talk today about your business and then about your family coming to the U.S., which is a really cool story.
Cool story.
So I'm holding this book that you gave me from your dad, which actually a bunch of clients of mine respect him a ton. So I wanted to talk to you about him for a little bit today.
We always got to bring some dad into it. He's a big part of who I am.
Well, you're really, really cool too.
Yeah.
So, but a quote in there I wanted you to speak on. You actually taught me this. So this was him, or I think his dad talking to your dad, and he said, Papascita always bought boxes of files. He had a habit of checking the machetes and hoes his workers used to make sure they were sharp. When I asked why he checked them so often, he said, son, if you do not give your workers the best tools to use, then you will never succeed. The only ones that made their lives scratching the land with their hands are the armadillos.
That's right.
I listened carefully because I thought my Papascita was a very wise man. So like, I feel like this kind of like speaks to you, or you've gotten that. So what do you think about like that quote?
Well, so, dad was always very adamant about, he always said to have a successful construction company, you really had to do only 3 things.
Yeah.
And it was, have the materials on the job site, pay your workers on time, and have a clean job site. So that quote kind of comes from the stuff that he taught us, is basically like, you need to have your tools sharp at all times, because at any point in time, you're going to hand those tools to someone and they have to work. So it's your responsibility to keep all these tools in working order. Another funny thing about dad and tools, now that I remember, he would get upset if you had like a shovel and you just laid it on the ground, or a machete, because we used to do a lot of machete work, in the house and at our camp and everything. You would always have to lay the tools against something and propped up, because he always said, if you put it on the ground, just throw the tool there, you're going to walk away and you're going to forget your tools. Yeah. So he was always very adamant about these specific details.
Well, I think that's why Alvarez Construction is one of the best known and best branded construction companies in Baton Rouge.
Thank you.
And I hear that constantly throughout the community. Yeah. So those lessons started a long time ago, though. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, coming from Colombia, South America, coming to the U.S., I was 2.5 years old, and we had to be that way because we're basically in survival mode.
Right.
We actually started an ice cream shop first because the economy in the 80s was just completely deflated. We had intentions to start building homes, but it didn't work out. So that type of mentality we needed to have to be able to survive and progress and not just stay stagnant.
Yeah.
Because that's another part of our story. We'd never really stayed complacent. We always Dad always had the vision to continue to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, another quote and this is the last one I'll give you, I promise. But this one, you actually told me the other day, like me and my wife were over at your house and we were just hanging out, and that's why you given us the book. And this was really, really cool. And I know we'll talk about it a little bit briefly, but I think he was getting dropped off at military.
Good quote.
And he said, I don't know anything about, or he was asking his dad, like, hey, you got any recommendations? Like, what should I do? And then his dad told your dad, I think, I don't know anything about military life, but I can give you advice about what you should do for the rest of your life. And then your dad said, what is that, sir? And he said, be very disciplined about following instructions. Before each move you make, ask yourself if what you are doing is right, and then do it faster and better than anyone else. That's all you will ever need to be successful at whatever you do.
Yeah, that's a great quote. So to give that quote some context, my dad, whenever he was a young man, 14, 15 years old, he became enamored with the Colombian military. So he went to see a parade demonstration. And then after that, he told his dad, Papascita in the book, my grandfather, that he wanted to be a general in the military. So the family did what they needed to do to get him into cadet school.
Yeah.
So, they drove from Medellin to Bogota to drop my dad off kind of for good, right? At 15 years old.
Crazy.
And so my dad was getting nervous and he said, hey, Papacito, what do I do? And he said, there's a little bit more to that story because Papacito told him, hey, like, I'm a farmer, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anything about military life. I know a little bit about veterinarian. I know about agriculture. But the only thing that I can tell you is ask yourself if what you're doing is right and do it better and faster than anyone else. And that's just been proven true, like for our family.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we live that way because it asks you like if you're doing something right, but then brings in that component of velocity, right? And once you bring in that component of velocity, that's what you need to build businesses, build wealth, and keep that pressure going. So if an opportunity arises, you know what to do.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
It's really cool, like knowing you, like in your professional, like you're grown up. We're adults now.
Yeah, where it's crazy.
Believe it or not. So it's cool though to see like where that all came from with you, like through this book and through the stories of your past.
Yeah.
But I see that all lived out through you and your businesses today.
Yeah.
Which is really cool to get some insight of how that actually got to you.
Yeah, and it's cool, and I think that even the neat thing is my siblings, Carlos and Anna, we've now taken some of those insights, and it's nice to know that we're kind of applying them, but also adjusting them as we see fit.
Yeah.
So it's been a good, Dad always had this fantastic vision. I think that was the other thing that kind of was passed down to us is, the vision doesn't stop at the end of the week, the end of the month, the end of the quarter, the end of the year. I mean, you and I spoke about the other day of like, businesses that try to establish, goals 50 years down the line.
Right.
And are you thinking that big? Are you thinking that large? And so it's all part of the puzzle.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, what, so one thing that like I admire about you and like see as I'm talking to you is your curiosity for working on your business.
Yeah.
And then like always trying to not necessarily perfect it, but make it better. And like move forward. I think velocity is a great word.
Yeah.
Or momentum, trying to push it forward. So where do you think that curiosity came from business?
So I think that like, I think it was mostly from like paying attention and watching. I think that's another key component to being successful in business. And hey, look, I mean, we're here calling ourselves like successful in businesses, but everybody's dealing with challenges right now.
Right.
Some days I feel some like I'm successful. Sometimes some days I don't. But my point is, you have to be curious. And so as I was paying attention and watching my family grow, watching my dad struggle, my brother coming up, my sister coming up, watching the struggle, I saw where the problem pain points were all the time. And it always dealt with maybe like organizational things that had to do within the company.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this isn't working here. This person's better suited for this task, so, and I learned early on because I did study landscape architecture at LSU. And, I knew that I liked design, I liked art, but I knew that out of the gate, like I wasn't the great technical draftsman artist. Mm-hmm. So I knew that my focus really needed to be in trying to build businesses instead of like kind of being stuck inside, like doing the main task that keeps the business going.
Yeah.
So in other words, how to find your weak points and hire the correct people to do those things to continue to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so that leads me to like, so you're part of multiple businesses.
Yep.
Right. And so let's talk about like Alvarez first, and then we'll get to like your core business. But I guess Alvarez is the core business. Yeah, it started it. How do you, so you work with your family.
With my family.
Siblings now, second generation.
Yep.
And second generation that's being successful with it.
Correct. We had an 80% failure rate after my dad passed away.
Wow.
Just to show you what we were up against after a founder passes away.
Yeah, it's very difficult. And then the third generation is almost impossible.
Yeah.
But how do y'all work within the construction of keeping your family very close. Like y'all have an amazing family, just personally knowing you.
Yeah.
Awesome family, great family values, legacy from your parents, but y'all have like kind of kept that going, which is awesome. And then how do you work together in the business, being on the top of the business?
Great question. So at first it wasn't like that. It was very difficult. And, because, my dad was, president, CEO of the company. My brother was in charge of sales at the time. I was coming in sort of as a landscape designer, but I kind of helped with all kinds of tasks. My first 2 years out of college, my dedication was just to learn as much as I could about the construction company, not even starting a landscape company or everything got just kind of pushed to the side. So I dedicated myself towards that. But as we grew, I knew that our roles were kind of muddled together. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't until probably, 2015 that, we decided like, hey, to make this work, like we all need to have our own job role and stay within our lanes. Mm-hmm. So at that point in time, we cut up, after my dad passed away, my brother kind of like the CEO of the company, also sitting in as a sales seat. And then, my sister always grew up with my dad teaching her the accounting side, bookkeeping, finance, so that was her lane. And then when I came in, I was always like, hey, we can do this better. This is not working. This is working. So I kind of fell into like the operational side to where the construction department fell under me, warranty as well, and purchasing. Right. So that's the key really is to respect everybody's boundaries. Yeah. And, just because you're family and just because you're not family doesn't mean you're not going to have drag down fights and get, flustered about business, because whether you're related or not, it ends up that way. But we've been able to really navigate that relationship because it's in a sense easy for us, because whenever we came to the U.S., this perspective is why I say it is we saw my dad struggle. Mm-hmm. So it was like a family event to like, let's succeed. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, hey, Carlos came from the U.S. First job he had was McDonald's. Right. Until we got the ice cream shop called Umbrella set up. Yeah. We had that for 7 years. And, my brother worked it. I was too young to work it at that time because this was in the mid 80s. Anna worked there. So we gave my dad Sundays off. Right. And dad worked, every single day till 11 p.m. closing up that dang ice cream shop. Wow. And then Thanksgiving Day in 1990 or 1991, and dad was like, I'm done with this. Yep. It's time to, explore the construction world, because he had done that a little bit with his brother in Colombia. And so in dad's book that we're talking about, he talks about terrestrial angels. I know it sounds a little crazy, but dad always believed that there was people on earth to help you. So through the construction, through the ice cream shop, he had regulars like Mr. Aubrey McClary. And he had McClary title eons ago. Mr. Bob, I forgot his name. But anyway, builders, developers, real estate agents, and dad would tell them, hey, how are you? Can I get your yogurt? My name's Alvarez. One day I'm going to start building and one day I'm going to reach out to you. Yeah. So he made all his networking through that ice cream shop. And then whenever we close, Bob Richardson, which is David Richardson's father, he's deceased as well, but basically gave my dad a business in a box. Yeah. He was an angel. And so he gave him a list of trade partners, where to buy the lot, list of materials, the house plans, like everything. Wow. And then dad started it. And the funny thing is dad didn't know what he was doing. Yeah. Because again, sometimes you go in these things, you have to figure it out on your way. I mean, in Colombia, it's all brick and block. Yeah. Here, it's all frame, bricks and sticks. And so whenever the materials were delivered, dad ordered the entire house package all at once. So the form materials for the house were on the bottom. So we had to go out there and move all the wood from the top to the bottom. Well, that's the way you got to learn. You got to learn. It doesn't matter what business you go into. Yeah. I would love to go talk to that title attorney like 15 years later, like your dad told him like, hey, I'm going to call you whenever, I start doing this. And then, that guy had to be like, oh my gosh, like and then like Alvarez turned into Alvarez. Yeah, we did. So we started our first house in Shenandoah off of Chancellorsville. We built one house, and And Dad said, hey, I think we can make a good living for ourselves. And he built 2. And then I think within the second year, we built 3. And then after that, we just kind of started systems and processes and people. And then, today, this year we'll do a little shy of 300, which we're down because of this economic environment that we're in. But
So how many days does it take y'all to build a house?
120 days.
Golly.
120 days.
And what are y'all trying to get it? Aren't y'all trying to get it lower or no?
Yeah. So, we're always challenging our
it's pretty low.
Managers. Yeah, it's pretty low. You can get lower. But here in Louisiana, we have weather delays and everything, but calendar days, we do it about 120 days.
That's incredible.
So we try to deliver a house, within, that's our cycle time. So 120 days. So we try to deliver a house within 5 months. One month takes like permitting and everything, but once we start building the house, it should take 120 days or less.
So the core business is construction building and selling houses. So what I'm always interested in with businesses, and what I love about Alvarez, is the verticals that y'all have been able to create.
Yeah.
When did that come about, and how'd y'all figure that out?
So I think the very first vertical that came about was my brother. So Carlos, shout out to my brother and
Carlos?
sister. And we started building, and then we had a real estate agent that was representing us. And then at that time, my brother was, kind of doing a lot of the estimating and a lot of the purchasing and some project management. And then so he ended up knowing more about the houses than the real estate agent that we had hired to represent us. So a couple years passed by, and he said, hey, Dad, I think I can do this. I think we can build and sell. Yeah. And Dad was like, I'm never going to hold you back on any other business that you want to kind of spin off of this.
Wow. And
so till today, he's still our number one broker. Yeah. One of the top in the state.
Yeah, he's a huge real estate agent.
Yeah,
that not many people know about.
He's great, and he's the sales guy. Yeah. Which I'm not the sales guy. So
yeah, I see that between y'all two.
Yeah, right.
So so it kind of came out of like the real estate sales side, and then you've been able to produce verticals off of that.
Yeah.
And so that's why I really wanted to get in with you. Is like, so then you found Flora, which
so that's my vertical out of the business. So the story with that is whenever I wasn't sure what I wanted to do when I got to LSU.
Right.
And so I wanted to explore all kinds of different opportunities. I didn't want to be like pegged into like just construction, because like it's great. I love it. It's a great business. We provide homes for people, the American dream. But for me, that was kind of like set in motion. And I had a little bit more of that creative side. So, one day we always helped Dad. At that time, we would do the landscaping for the homes ourselves. Like, I was super young, didn't know what I was doing. Because we needed to save the money. So one day we were doing it, and then Dad said, "This one I want you to do yourself." And I said, "Well, Dad, what do you mean?" He's like, "Well, you got a truck. Oh. We have this little small 14-foot trailer."
Yeah.
He's like, "Go get your friends from Bishop Sullivan High School."
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to give you $1,500. I remember this. I said,
Dude,
he said, "I'm going to give you $1,500. I said, $1,500. He said, "You need to buy the plants. You need to buy the soil. You need to pay for your friends.
Yeah.
You need to figure out what weekend. You need to install it. And whatever's left over is yours." And I was like, I think I can make $500 out of this.
That's cool.
And so like that was my dad giving me, maybe now I consider my dad as my angel, but he gave me a business in the box.
Yeah.
And so I played around with that in high school, that concept, did a few homes, and then for my dad, for Alvarez. And then when I got to LSU, I still wanted to keep my options open. I still didn't know construction. I didn't know, business school also interested me or whatever. And then, I always found myself doing the landscapes saying, "Hey, Dad, we should put this plant here in this window. This tree looks better here." Yep. So I had an aesthetic intuition, I guess, curiosity. I like that word. So when I got to LSU, there was an introductory class into landscape architecture. And that sold me on the career. I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I took that opportunity. And then, like I said, when I got into, I was a little spoiled in a sense, because when I graduated LSU, I had the opportunity to take my landscape architecture exam, but we had just purchased 100 acres off of Perkins and Piku.
Yeah.
And so we had grown the company while we were in college, Alvarez Construction, where we were building probably about 100 homes a year.
Yeah.
And then we had this land opportunity, with Ross Berthelot.
Really?
Yeah.
What's up, Ross?
What's up, Ross? Shout out, Ross.
And they met George Steinbrenner. Brought from it. That was like so cool.
I was too young. Dad didn't take me. So, but we had this big project, and Dad said, "Hey, by the way, you're in charge of this." I'm like, "In charge of 100 acres?" He's like, "Yeah, you need to design the land layout, because landscape architecture is not just about planting Japanese yews in a yard, right?" So I learned all about urban development, and my final project was a subdivision in Ascension. So I designed the lakes at Jamestown.
Okay.
And I worked with the engineers to design the lakes, the entries, the monuments, traffic patterns, and all that stuff. So out of the gate, I realized, okay, well, I'm actually in charge of a landscape architect working under me. So that's when I took those 2 years at Alvarez to really learn the business of the vertical construction and land development, which was really interesting to me. So I had had 2 subdivisions under my belt, within that time frame. Yeah. And then 2008, that's whenever I decided to start the landscape company, because I had a little bit of time and I could delegate a little bit more.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that you designed that project.
Yeah. So most of the time, whenever we were actually Alvarez Construction, we're not doing a lot of land development right now because we buy or purchase lots. But any opportunity that we can get some raw land and add our influence in our design, that's what I help out with.
Yeah. That's just y'all were one of the largest builders in the Southeast building, because it was economic disaster. And then Alvarez is just chugging, producing lots and homes.
Yeah. We built over 500 lots into just that one subdivision.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
During the
hardest time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here we are today.
Here we are.
We're writing another
still
story.
Surviving.
The interest rate crisis.
All right. So how do you feel about Flora? If we really dive into what it's become. So I know that's the early years and what you're trying to create now, or what you are creating. How do you feel about the business how is it different than other landscape business? Because I feel like there's a huge difference being a client of y'all's. Yeah. So what is that? What are you trying to strive for there?
So what I'm trying to strive for is, I feel like with, the family background of, residential home building, I can really apply that type of vertical into the landscapes and provide kind of turnkey solutions for either high-end residential or commercial projects, right? So, Flora holds a residential home building license and also a commercial building license. Wow. So technically we could build, a commercial building. Yeah. So that gives us the opportunity to reach out to a developer, which we're doing now, and just take care of the whole amenity site. So, the bathrooms, the pool, the landscape, the irrigation. So we can sub out to other commercially licensed vendors. So that's what I'm trying to create there. Yeah. And the growth has been great. The past 3 years, we've been having more. So we're talking about vertical businesses, right? So at the beginning of Flora in 2008, I was doing a lot of design work for other people, and also the construction company. But I tailored the landscape company to really service the Alvarez Construction monster that we had going on. So that means, landscape, drainage, sod, cleaning all the streets, cleaning all the trash debris, all the driveway work. My goal is to do everything that is outside of the walls of a building. So that's what we strive for with Alvarez. But, looking at it now with the economy that we're facing, there's a slowdown in the construction industry all over the place. So I saw it as a little bit of a red flag that we had such a big client. And I was ready to have a little bit of fun as well and grow a landscape design build firm. So now we're probably on year 4 of really trying to grow that section of it. So, we do some maintenance, we're not super focused on the maintenance, even though I feel like we are doing a really, really good job. But right now the main focus is trying to do some commercial and high-end residential.
Yeah.
New landscaping.
Yeah.
Sort of like new construction.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So one concept you have with Flora that you've told me about in the past is like a lot of people worry about the design and the inside of their home. Like my wife is very concerned about that for some reason all of a sudden. And so you're trying to bring that outside and like worried about the outside of the home as much as the inside.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time thinking about what the homeowner does not do.
Right.
And that's the problem we're trying to solve.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised, like we'll go on a walk with a homeowner to show them the current condition of their home.
Yeah.
And it's in shambles.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that a homeowner, like when was the last time you walked your house 360 degrees?
Only when you come over for dinner and you make me go do it. And I got to do other projects.
So that's the kind of thing we want to take care of. Even with our maintenance contract is coming up with a holistic approach to where the homeowner comes out on a service plan and doesn't have to worry about anything. Yeah. And have us manage the property.
Yeah, I love that. By the way.
Yeah. I know you're a star client. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. So that's what I was telling Aaron the other day. It's just I love now being in an environment where I feel like we're friends.
Yeah.
And doing honest work with each other. Having kids going to the same school, and it's not just with you, but with other people that we know. It's a good time right now.
Feels like a community.
It feels like a community. And, Baton Rouge, everybody says it's small, but that's not a bad thing.
No.
There's plenty of opportunity here to make money.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Sebastian, we appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in today. Awesome. You're one of my favorite people.
Awesome.
And
Thank you.
Awesome talking to you.
All right. Shout out to Summer.
All right. Summer. And Aaron, EA, you better call EA.
And, she might be next.
And P.
PJM.
We had a really good Napa trip together.
That's right.
Let's bring back memories. All right. Thank you, dude.
Thanks.
I appreciate
See
it.
Bye.
All right. Yeah.